Greetings, my name is Mark G. Vitalis Hoffman. I'm a professor of biblical studies at the United Lutheran Seminary in Gettysburg in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In July of 2017, I had the opportunity to study at the American School of Classical Studies in Athens, and as part of the extending that time there, I wanted to do a little bit of investigation of the Via Egnatia, especially following some of the footsteps of Paul, since I'm a New Testament scholar. I was able to contact the Via Egnatia Foundation, and I'd like to thank the people listed there for some assistance and some of the work that they've already done in tracking this down. I have a few things I want to add here simply in terms of visuals and also some particular things that I found or that might be helpful for others who are interested in following this path. It's about 9 miles, 15 kilometers from Neapolis to Philippi. And this is the area of interest since Paul landed at Neapolis and made his way there. And the path is from the Via Egnatia from Neapolis to Philippi is actually rather clear, but there's a few things we want to keep in mind. First of all here, the modern highway tends to run right through here, but in antiquity that was part of a marshy area, and so that's why the road runs further to the north and to the east that we want to watch here. I've indicated some of the places of the visible remains, and we'll take a look at those right now. I'm standing on that pass, near the pass going over to Philippi, right above the Via Egnatia, and I'm looking then off to the south and east mainly here. And this is the ancient harbor right in here. Over here, that's the island of Thasos. And so what would have happened is somebody's making their way up here through here. As it says in Acts 16, 11, 12, that Paul and Silas set sail from Troas over in Asia Minor, went to Samothrace, off in the distance over here, that island, and then here to Neapolis, and then on to Philippi at this point. One of the places that commemorates that is this Church of St. Nicholas in Neapolis, and they have a little memorial commemorating Paul's landing here. Here we are looking at some of the sites that you can see in Neapolis. This is using a Google Earth view, and the Via Egnatia is actually very clearly marked out here on this map that I've also highlighted. There's a couple of ways that you can access it. You can come to the sort of western point of the city, and you can see it right here where it starts off and makes its way up to the pass, or else you can access it from two different spots here, and there's a parking spot right there that actually you can off of this highway and use that little road, and by going to that you can get a view like this where you can see the Via Egnatia there winding its way through Neapolis, modern Kabbalah. As you go over the pass, there are remains on the other side, on the western side, as you're going down. And what you want to do here is go to the eastern end of Stavros. And I'm zooming in here. And if you go right to this point right here, actually, there is a little fountain in honor of Paul and Silas. And then the Via Egnatia makes its way up through here, as you can see. One thing just to notice, in 2004 when I went by, it looked like this. And when I was there now in July of 2017, this section right here looked like this. So you can see there's been considerable deterioration in the upkeep of the roadway here. As we continue on west and north, as I mentioned earlier, the modern highway cuts more straight across here, but that was marshy area in ancient times, and so the original road tended more to the north and west. And one way you can see how this works, I'm standing about right here looking this way, and you can see this modern highway follows exactly the old one, and here would be that pass that leads over into Neapolis. Another marker that we have on the way here is this monument of Caius Vibius that's located here and is noted right on the north side of the Via Egnatia, running right through here. And this monument was about 4 meters high, so it's quite considerable there. It was erected in the 1st century CE, and it tells about Caius Vibius Quartus, so forth here, the military tribune of the 2nd Legion of Augustus, commander, and then it is chipped off below that so that it's no longer readable. And the reason for that is that legend had connected it with Alexander the Great or his horse Bucephalus. The legends are mixed a bit, and so locals would chip at the base and mix the powder of the rock in with breast milk to make babies as strong and brave as Alexander the Great, so that the inscription has been completely worn away. As we continue westward, the Via Egnatia runs right through. This is modern Cranidas right here, the modern city, but you can see here the outline of ancient Philippi that we'll be looking at here as we move into the city. And it's very clear where the Via Egnatia runs through here. You can see it here marked with that yellow line just below that. And some of the key factors here that you can still see that would have been from 1st century BCE CE would be the agora, though the agora of that period would be probably a foot or two below this one. This was a later Roman one. There was along there the two pools surrounding the bema that we have here. And I'm standing here, and the next picture looking that way, and then another picture looking that way. And you can see here then, it's quite obvious the roadway and the stonework there, looking to the southeast and looking to the northwest, and here would be one of the pools, the bema, and another pool down in here. So that gives you a good sense of the Via Egnatia running through Philippi. As we continue westward out of Philippi, we run into some interesting questions, and here is where we run into some of the details being supported by the Battle of Philippi, fought in 42 BCE between the troops of Brutus and Cassius, the liberators, and Octavian and Antony, the Republicans there. So let's take a closer look at what this involves. One of the things I was interested in is trying to define more carefully and exactly where the Via Egnatia ran as it left Philippi on its way to Amphipolis. One of the things you can do in Google Earth is you can have a history, and what it does is you can click through from 2003 into the present all the satellite views that they have. So you get quite a few different images and different times of the year. But one of the things that showed up persistently is, you can just barely see it right above here, is this line right here. That line, it turns out, is actually part of the ancient Via Egnatia, and clearly the rocky foundation of the road itself persisted and has effect even here over the many changes that have occurred to this area that we'll talk about in a moment. This road runs out here, would have continued on to the north to Drama, but it seems to run across here. Part of this that can be confirmed then is, as I mentioned, with the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE. One of the things that is noted there is these two mounds right here. What had happened initially is Octavius and Antony had sent two of their generals who had gone all the way further east to that pass and had tried to hold it, but Brutus and Cassius had come with their troops from Neapolis and also from the north, and had threatened to pin them in, and so they had retreated back here west of Philippi, and Brutus and Cassius took their locations up here, and it says that Cassius located his troops here on these two mounds on the south side of the Via Egnatia, and Brutus located his troops on the north side, and also over in here it seems that he was trying to close off all the different options that way. What's interesting here is I saw a sign at Philippi itself. And this sign confirms here the troops of Cassius right here, the troops of Brutus here, and here is this Via Egnatia that runs between them. Note here we've got some sort of monumental gate or something that sets up here, and it's connected to this the Gangitis River that was running through here at that time. Also note here these fortifications that were set up by Cassius and Brutus, as you might expect, to unite their line here, and so they have got both the Via Egnatia completely blockaded, as well as any access coming from the north to Drama. Now, when you look back at Google Earth, again, using the Google Earth history, what you see regularly is this line right through here, and that apparently is the fortification wall of Brutus and Cassius that they had constructed, and the vermins are still embedded in the rock that has affected the toning of the landscape there. And I'm sure there might be other explanations here, but that certainly fits the pattern very well. The other thing then is that the ancient Gangites River ran through here somewhere. Partly we know that this is the case because it is reported at one point that Brutus redirected the waters, and so that they flooded Octavius's camp over here. In modern times, the river has been rerouted over to here, as you can see, and by channeling it that way, that has been able to open this all up and to make it a great agricultural area here in northern Greece. The other thing I want to bring to your attention then are these two spots right here. I stayed at the little hotel that's right down here and talked to the owner, and he pointed these out to me as saying that tradition had said that they were remnants of the old Via Egnatia. You can see that they're right on that line there, and that was where that one little gate somewhere was located in this area as well. I was here in July, so there was sunflower crops growing here, as you'll see. I wasn't able to get to that one because of the fields, but I did get a closer inspection at this one right here, and I want to show you what I found there. So here I'm looking to the west, and you can see it's not much of a mound, and it's mainly bramble, various bushes there. But when you get a little closer to it here, you can see there's quite a bit of a ancient Roman brick of various kinds that is not anywhere else in the field there. So that's located there. And looking into the pile itself, you see quite a bit of rock like this. That would be very typical either for the road or for perhaps construction. And as I say, I couldn't get in there because of all the brambles, but it was more of a hole than a mound here at this point. So I'm wondering perhaps at least if the local right here, whether it was either part of a bridge foundation or a fountain or a spring or part of some little decorative welcome gateway here on the west of Philippi. As the road continues here, there's a number of things in terms of walking. The Via Egnatia Foundation had people suggest walking this way here, which is certainly easier. But again, this was probably mostly swamp and streams and creeks running through here. And so by our best evidence, it would seem that it ran further to the north before cutting around down here to the south. This is somewhat speculative through here, but we do have a couple things to mark its continued progress. There's an emphium located right here. We go past a tomb of the fox, an ancient tomb there. We go past the Amphipolis tomb, now known as the Costa tomb, that was been in the news the last few years for some remarkable finds have gone there. And finally, we reach here Amphipolis, as it said, Paul and Silas had done as they went through. As you get to Amphipolis on the northeast corner of the city, you can see some ancient fortifications here, and that leads down to, is partly leading to this ancient wooden bridge. This is a rather remarkable bridge. This was built in the 5th century BCE, so there's some petrified wood stumps there, and it was noted that this was part of the bridge that was involved in the Battle of Amphipolis in 422 BCE, fighting between the Athenians and the Spartans up here, claiming control. As you continue on past Amphipolis a little bit, Amphipolis itself is surrounded by the Strymon River, and at one point here on the south side of it, you need to cross a ford right there, and a famous monument was found, rather remarkably, over the period of 50 years, and reconstructed at least in part here. It was the initial structure would have been much larger. This is a 4th century BCE funerary monument apparently for this Admiral Laomedon, who was under Alexander the Great. So as the Apostle Paul would have walked by here, that probably was a visible monument at that time. As we continue on towards Thessaloniki here, it's clear that they followed along through the shore here, and some way made their across here, perhaps across here, and went to Lake Valvi. And it said here that they went through Amphipolis and then to Apollonia. And so what that means is that they went on the south side here of Lake Valvi, and Apollonia is located right here. And if we zoom in on this, again using Google Maps and Google Earth, we can see that this river that's run through here has left quite an alluvial deposit, and so this is probably all of this is newer land here, but in ancient times there was an area right here. I'm marking it on this map in case anyone else tries to locate it in Apollonia, and they have a marker right there celebrating that, according to local lore, that Paul preached from this rock right here, and it says that original via Egnatia pavement is in this area. This all seems modern here, but it's possible that this underlying area right here connected with this little spring could be ancient Egnatia roadway through there. So that's a monument that you find there. Now, this is as far as I'm going to go with this. The roadway continues on to Thessalonica, and there, of course, it works through the Arch of Galerius and through Thessalonica itself. But hopefully this gives a little idea of some spots to look at if you're interested in tracking down, especially Paul's journeys and the other great heroes in Greco-Roman history that have followed this path.